And welcome everybody to another edition of the Between Two Wheels podcast. Welcome back. This is your Christmas edition. For those who don't celebrate Christmas, it's just your holiday edition. Today's show, we're going to talk about a few things. Cyclocross National Championships, give you some update on that. The River Ride World Championships, we'll give you the results. We teased that a few weeks ago. We'll give you who won that. Some transfers in the Northern California Cycling Association. We'll go over some of those. Gravel. Is it the purgatory for tour pros? Some things that make you go, Some winners and losers. And what did Curt say? All coming up. All right, I am Tyler Janke, and this is the Between Two Wheels podcast. I believe we're on episode 154. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And I hope, I'm going to recap a little bit here. I hope everybody got a chance to check out our last show. We had Eric Camacho, we had Chris Levins, Chris Flower, we had Jason Graffath. We had them all in here, two on via the internet. And Jason Graffath and Chris Flower joined me in the studio to go over the NCNCA calendar. We did so. I think there was a lot of good info that we were able to get from that. It was a little difficult trying to coordinate all that, but I think it was a good opening, and that's kind of an evergreen show. So you can go back through there. Maybe we'll update that as the season goes on and give you some more, a little more perspective as to some of those races. Little update on the early birds. Keep that in mind. We'll get to that when we get to the viewer mailbag. All right, so what did Curt say? Well, that goes right back to our NCNCA topic here. And until those two guys join us back in the studio, I'm going to keep doing what did Curt say. Curt Mills, let me back up a little bit. If you're new to the show, my name is Tyler Janke. I'm a cyclist here in Northern California. I'm a masters racer. I've done this since I was a teenager, raced through Colorado during University of Colorado for my collegiate career, oil me professional cycling for a while out there, took some time off. Now I'm back in here doing masters racing. Love it. And my biggest goal here is to not necessarily talk about me, but is to give you some news of the cycling world, give you some interviews from Northern California. We've done the Tour of California as well, giving you some pros, trying to get them in here. I'm still going to try to do that some more. I just love talking about cycling and everything involved in that and just kind of rambling. So stick with us and enjoy it. And look, subscribe to us on any of the platforms you have. Check us out on our YouTube channel because we're simulcasting there. And we're going to try to do more live events throughout the year. We've done some of those before, like race preview shows. And, the better we're getting with our technology and our soundboard and all the connecting stuff, the easier it is for us to do that. So give us any comments you have about that, and we'll be sure. Anyway, until I have a podcast partner, Curt, I have Curt Mills and Chris Flower. Chris Flower has been here much more lately than Curt. But I'm just going to kind of relay to you some things that Curt said. Curt was upset with Jason Graffath in our last episode for his characterization of the Nevada City Classic. The comment that Jason made was something along the lines of, when the race is on the week before. Curt says, hey, the race has been going on since 1960. So it's been happening. We'll let that stand as it is. Chris Flower says, hey, how you doing? How you doing, Chris? All right, let's talk about Cross National Championships. Now, this was streamed online. It was up in Lakewood, Washington. It looked like a total wet fest, and you had some interesting things that come out of there. I'm not going to go through all the races because, honestly, I didn't watch them all. I watched a little bit here and there, got totally read up on everything on the net that I could. So we'll just go through a few things. Gage Heck wins the elite road race, the Cyclocross Championships up in Lakewood. He won. He's Team Evolo for the road. He got a stage in the Colorado Classic a few years ago, or in whatever that was called at the time. But he took the men's title, USA Cycling Championships in Lakewood. He's 22 years old. He is quite a talent, and it should be able to. Pretty cool. He said, it's amazing. It's been doing this since I was 10 or 12. So this is amazing, really exciting, he said in the post-race interview. Totally agree. And it was, some of the results on the day we have here. He beats Curtis White of the Cannondale team, Stephen Hyde, who's been a perennial up there for the U.S. In third, Kerry Werner, Lance Haydet, his teammate of Evolo, Andrew Dillman in sixth, Logan Owen, That's Chloe Diegert Owen's husband. He rides for EF Education First. I saw him out there in that kit. Grant Elwood, James Driscoll, Max Chance, Cody Kaiser, the kid, our local cyclocross rider from here in Sacramento at 11th place. So pretty good for him. Other than that, I'm just kind of looking through any other names catch my eye. Once again, not being a total cyclocross junkie, so not recognizing too many of these other or any of them. So anyway, on the elite side, that's really good result. Women's elite cross championships. Clara Honsinger, 23 years old, ends Katie Compton's 15-year winning streak at Cyclocross Championships. 15 years ago, what were you doing 15 years? So Katie Compton's been winning this for 15 straight years, and she finally gets beat. What were you doing 15 years ago? Well, you know what? I've decided to compile a few notable things from 2004, 15 years ago. And what was happening then? Well, we had the Greece Summer Olympics. If you remember that, it was Michael Phelps was on the scene destroying everybody. I don't think he was smoking his marijuana yet at that point. Tyler Hamilton won the gold for the individual time trial there. Later on, he wins stage 8 of the individual time trial at the Vuelta same year. However, it was later determined that he had help from his vanishing twin, his chimera twin, the blood transfusion thing. And so as a result, Ekimov gets the gold medal, and he was DQ'd from the Vuelta. He was DQ'd from the his Olympic, and then this kind of resulted in a lot of other fallout that we've seen later with Lance Armstrong. But Bobby Julich gets the silver medal as a result. Ekimov gets the gold medal in the time trial there at the Olympics. Both well-deserving and clean riders themselves. I remember at the time Ekimov comes out and he's all mad at Tyler Hamilton for. I'm thinking of it now. He was probably mad that he got caught, but he was all upset that how dare you bring cheating into the sport and get caught at the Olympics, and like all up and up. And I'm like, really, Ekimov? I mean, no one at the time thought Russian Ekimov was clean, and there's no chance he was. He's still good friends with Lance. How is that possible? Look, for those of you on YouTube, I'm drinking out of a mug that my wife had made me a mug a few years ago. We did this little date. You could do ceramic things. She painted it. It had a bike on it. It was real cool. I broke it. Came to the office a few days ago. It was wet, slipped out of my hand, just shattered all over the floor. Pretty demoralizing. So if you're out there and you have a suggestion for a good replacement mug, something cycling related, maybe anarchy related, send it to me. Give me an idea, and I'll go out and purchase it. Or you can purchase it and send it yourself. Okay, what else happened? 2004. The CIA admits there was no immediate threat for weapons of mass destruction before the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Ouch. Yeah. Well, that war's still going on. So good to hear. Lance Armstrong, as we mentioned before, he wins the unprecedented 6th consecutive Tour de France cycling title in 2004. All right. Facebook is launched, but only to college students. Shrek 2 topped the movie's gross income there. Number 1 song was Yeah by Usher, featuring Lil Jon and Ludacris. May remember that? I don't. Also, Usher's Confessions was the best-selling album of 2004. And Boston Red Sox, they won the World Series first time since 1918. I think that was 86-year drought there. They finally overcame and won that, breaking the curse of the Bambino. But most importantly, Napoleon Dynamite was released in 2004 with a budget of only $400,000. John Heder was paid only $1,000 for his role as Napoleon. Probably a good investment on his part, though, actually, to take $1,000 of that. I don't know if he got any royalties, but amazing movie. Love it. And, hey, it's what it is. All right, let's go back to cyclocross. So what were you doing in 2004? I don't know. I was 15 years younger. That's all I know. U23, Katie Klaus wins. Klaus finished more than 2 minutes ahead of runner-up Hannah Arnsman of the J.A. King Cyclocross team and Shannon Mallory of the NW Cross Project. Men's U23, Eric Brunner wins. He soloed victory ahead of Caleb Schwartz of the Linear Sport RT Trek and Scott Funston of the Hold Fast Project. Most notably for me and for this area, though, was Jonathan Baker, Masters racer, Touchstone. He followed up his national championship on the road this last year out in Colorado with a national championship in cross. It almost looked like a replay of the the road win, soloing over. Dude is strong, crazy strong, local rider here, and we have to deal with him all the time. So he's a problem, and it's an honor, actually, to be racing against him. Nice guy, super strong, and he's got a great team, Touchstone Racing. Congrats to them. So he'll be able to wear stars and stripes for most of the year and for whatever he does. Let's go. So that was cyclocross. Look, cyclocross, we're going to have national championships. I know Matthew Vanderpool, he's in the news. Look, there's a lot of news going on. We'll get to some world tour stuff. Matthew Vanderpool, I think his team is trying to get into the Vuelta, and the Vuelta is saying, I don't think we're going to be picking his team. So his Tour de France, or his World Tour, Grand Tour debut is probably going to be put on hold for a little while. Hey, join a different team. That's what I have to say about that. River Ride World Championships was the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Wet. It looked like it was, at least. Saw the results for that. The winner was Jeff Watson. I think he rides with Sierra Nevada here in Sacramento, Folsom area. Look, what was great about seeing the finished video, I saw a video of the race. The finished video of it was good to see that it didn't disappoint that someone was completely on the other side of the road, oncoming traffic. Now, there wasn't oncoming traffic, but all the way on the yellow side of the road, for a top 5 place there. Wouldn't be the River Ride without it, but it looked like Jeff Watson narrowly beat Chris Espy at the line there. So, hey, it's River Ride. It's World Championships. My suggestion, let's do not a River Ride. Let's do a Coffee Republic World Championships next year. I think we can get that together. A few weeks ago, Nilson Palace is in town. He's like, hey, I'm showing up for Coffee Republic. It's a ride we have out in Folsom, California. It's more hilly it's about 60 miles, 50 somewhere. It's more hilly a lot more hilly than the River Ride. And so he shows up. Cole Davis shows up. A bunch of other, Mike Sayers was out there. I did not show up because it was raining. Who wants to do that? Cole Davis mentions best Coffee Republic ride ever. So evidently Andrew Shimizu was out there. So evidently it was a big hitter. Good day out there for them. What if we set that up next year? We do a Coffee Republic World Championships. Because right now we have a regroup. No regroup. Thoughts on that? Everyone chime in. See what you think. Let's go to some transfers, kind of new teams for the NCNCA, Northern California, Nevada Cycling Association. New team on the block. Well, I want to say new team, but it's not. It's a remix, kind of a Team Folsom Bike. They put together a completely different team from what they've had over the last few years. Their owner, Wilson Girl, looks like he's back in good form, and so he's kind of got a team together. New kits, new everything. I should probably reach out to one of them, maybe Wilson himself, and talk to him. But it's the Tough Brothers, Kevin and Matt, Josh Wood, Cameron Walker. Those two were together last year on their own, Vi 13. I think that's their clothing sponsor. Travis Lee comes over from Thirsty Bear. Rick Reinert from R4R. Wilson, the owner there. Andrew Heineman from Audi Reno. Rich Hufford. I don't know if he was racing with anybody last year. And Jeremy Barnes from Sierra Nevada. Pretty good team. They're going to have a good Masters 45 team, pretty good 35 sprint team there with Josh and Rick. So it'll be interesting. The Tough Brothers as well. Mike's Bikes. They add YouTube star, NorCal Cycling Vids, and Turon Elite sprinter Jeff Linder. Congrats to him. I saw he just did another cool video with the Lantern Rouge guy. They're breaking down some racing. Maybe we'll throw some of our videos over to Jeff next year and see how he does with critiquing that. We do race videos as well. Max Corus comes back to Teams Mike's Bikes for 2020. He was a 2015 National Individual Time Trial Champion. I think the 40K record. I think that was up there in Truckee. Or nears about. Jackson Duncan of Santa Rosa joins him as well. Brennan Words, former world champion rower. Don't know much about him, but he looks like a big guy. Crichton Gruber, formerly of Team Swift, and he also won the Paskenta Road Race, the one they have Super Bowl day. It's the unsanctioned one that they have. That's the one he won. He also won the Between Two Wheels podcast $100 prize at the Nevada City Classic in 2018. We are proud to give that to him. He was for the last official person not to be pulled in the race. That's how we did it. And look, that was a tough race that day. you had Mike's Bikes out there lapping the field, putting on the heat, and he was a young kid then. I think he's his first year not to being a junior. So looking forward to seeing Crichton and seeing how well he can do, kind of moving up. He's been mixing up with these guys anyway, but now he's going to have a little different role. Team SP2. Well, it appears this got some fish or some frogs in their recipe, and there's algae. What eats algae? Fish, I think, and frogs. Either way, the team is no longer. The sponsors did. It seems like they've left, and so where are some of those riders going? This is your Tyler Pierce, vegan cyclist team. He had quite a big production there last year. He was doing videos about the team and the budget. Those all bothered me, and maybe we get into that sometime. I've tried to talk to him about it. Not done anything on camera, so I'd still like to maybe do a recap of how that just went sideways, and it looks like it was maybe too much one person kind of being involved. Just reading into this, although I do have some insights on some of the riders here. Isaiah Oliver, it looks like he's going to Legion of LA. I know they have an A and B squad. I think he's going to be, I don't know which one he's on there. Good talent. Tough boys to Folsom Bikes. Timmy Bauer, unconfirmed where he is. Josh Carlene, I think someone said he was going to the Mark Pro team. I don't know what their new sponsor is this year. Cameron Hawk, don't know where he is. There's the White Brothers. Tyler Pierce, well, he'll be on YouTube doing something, Zwifty or Gravelly or whatever he does. Okay, Team California, they've been making new announcements. They're managed by Curt Carlson. He was Jelly Belly rider, I think, a few years ago. They've been announcing a bunch of new riders, and it'll be interesting to see how they do. I didn't recognize any of them, so I'm going to have to do some work into reviewing that and to kind of just to see how it goes. Other than that, I need to kind of look and see where some of the females and what we have new teams on those. We'll look into that. Someone have any info you want to send me your way of some new announcements of local riders, in the NCNCA, where they're going, some new developments, what teams they're riding for. Sometimes it's hard to, unless they're announcing it online, like some of these big teams. We don't really know until the season starts, and then we start checking it out. But we would like to start doing what we do, bringing some teams in and having some conversations with them about their plans for the next year. Okay, let's talk about gravel. I mentioned up top that it looks like it might be the new purgatory for World Tour riders. And what I mean by that is they're kind of in limbo, some of these. And is it by choice? Is it not by choice? But you've got three I'll mention right here. Peter Stetina, Ian Boswell, and Lawrence Tendam. They're all moving to gravel this next year. Now, Stetina, supposedly he's like, look, this is what I want to do. This is a big desire. I kind of buy that, but I also feel like he was losing choices. He did not sign for Trek until really late last year for his 2019 contract. It was in doubt for a while. Matter of fact, he was supposed to be doing, I think, the Tour, and then he was supposed to be doing the Vuelta. He broke his collarbone. There's some issues. He was left off the teams. Then he was a late addition. I don't know if he took a pay cut anyway. It seemed like to me to be kind of a last-ditch effort. So was he actually going to be getting a contract this year? I don't know. Could be. But he's decided to go to gravel. That's the way it's gone. I know Ted King has gone over that way as well. He retired. Ian Boswell had a concussion this last year, pretty bad. I think they said it was his 6th concussion that he's had in his career. It's pretty heady. No joke. That and Katusha going by the wayside, not getting picked up with Israel Cycling Academy. He rode the Tour de France just, 2 years ago. So he's turning to gravel as well. And I don't know if that's an interim thing. He was on a podcast, the cycling podcast. He's kind of kept saying, well, I'm not retiring. This is just a change. So I don't know if this is a short-term thing, if he's trying to come back to the World Tour, if it's a thing with his head contract. I don't know. And then the next one is Lawrence Tendam. He has, after 17 years as a pro, he says he retired, but he goes, I like to do some races like Dirty Kansas, Cape Epic, maybe a crazy bike packing race. So look, he's in a little different situation. I think he could have kept on going, but he's been racing for quite some time. He's got a family. I know he really enjoyed coming out here. He was hanging out in the U.S. in Santa Cruz for a while, brought his family over here. Who knows, but looks like maybe this is kind of your thing. Some riders, really getting action into the gravel scene. And it'll be interesting to see how, look, the gravel has had Dirty Kansas as an example. Up until just a few years ago, it's a big party event type of thing. Riders go and do this, and obviously they're racing, but it's, all amateur. And then they started to get some pros showing up. And then they had a woman last year who was drafting off of her husband. That got a lot of controversy. Then all these pros are showing up. It's kind of changing the dynamic. It's still interesting to see, but it'll be interesting to see if this party atmosphere continues, or if the locals really, the amateurs that come out there and do it, if they start getting, hey, you're really screwing with our vibe, and now it's just like all over racing. Because hey, bike racers they like to ruin everything. All right, and so look, gravel, the way it is. Who knows? Either way, how about some things that make you go,
Things that make you go,
All right, so one thing I saw here is it going to be illegal? Register your bike or go to jail. That's a thing I read here. It's Montgomery County, Maryland ordinance authorizes impoundment and misdemeanor charges for cyclists who lack the requisite sticker. Who wants a government-approved sticker on your bike? Anybody? Raise your hands. No. Many of you love, maybe you want to show your allegiance to your overlords, and you want to do this. But this is a really interesting article I found, and I'll link it in our show notes. It was an issue. Guy gets pulled over. He ran a stop sign. And the article is a little iffy as to, I think he was on his bike at the time. And so the officer pulls him over. And then he the guy decided he was going to video it, and the officer said, look, you can't do that. The guy at least knew. He said, no, I have my First Amendment right to do this. Then the officer's like, okay. So, there's always that. And then the officer decided to impound the bike because he didn't have the requisite sticker on the bike. Wow, this seemed a little bit over the top. Guy had no idea that this was even a thing. He goes to court about it. And the police officers didn't show up, so the judge threw it out. And the judge was rolling, the way this is written, it's like, oh, the judge is rolling his eyes. Oh, how, I didn't even know this was a law. This is a law in the books. Everyone's kind of like, oh, why would you even do this? Well, why is the law then even on the books? People are saying, it's really you have to register your bike. That's just really odd. I don't know what the point of that was. It doesn't even say what the whole intent of that law actually was, but the guy says here, I was dumbfounded when they wrote me a ticket for it. Afterward, when I learned that this was a criminal summons, yes, a criminal summons, I was double dumbfounded. The registration law was written as a Class C civil violation, i.e. a non-crime, but under Maryland law, the police may write up any Class A, B, or C violation as a misdemeanor crime, as they did in my case. It was charged as a misdemeanor, a Class C violation, and is punishable by a $50 fine and up to 10 days in jail if the fine is not paid, along with being able to impound your bike. When the attorney described the charges, the judge just shook his head in disbelief, Somerson said, and the prosecutor kind of chuckled as he dropped the charges. Oh, how cute. Why make the laws? We can talk about issues with are the police, as Colin Kaepernick would say, murdering people, are the police doing the right thing, as the other side would say. Maybe you are putting this is a prime example, or the guy selling the Lucy's in New York, of having a stupid law that then the police feel like they're going to enforce for whatever reason or not, maybe racist, maybe not, maybe just showing their authority, or maybe they think they're doing the right thing. But you're putting a confrontation. Now you're going to have a confrontation with cyclists and the law itself. Maybe I'm grasping at straws, but it goes right into the line of the next issue that I saw here, which is Sacramento bike death toll is one of the nation's worst. Okay, so the SACB had an article about this, and it was somewhat interesting. Hey, look, we have the worst bike death toll. Sacramento bike death toll is one of the nation's worst. Here's why cyclists still resist helmet laws. So then it went into a whole thing about helmet laws, which I'm not really a fan of either. I never ride. Matter of fact, the other day I just started to head out the door to ride my bike. I'm down the curb, and all of a sudden I realized I don't have my helmet. I'm wearing my helmet. I'm always going to wear my helmet. That's not going to even be an issue. But do I feel it's a compulsory thing? Maybe if you're a child under 16, under 18, then yes. But it was actually interesting to look at the data in here, because they talk about there's a few states, I think District of Columbia, and they said in Puerto Rico require everyone to wear a helmet when riding a bike. Now, it's in the report, but when you look at the data, I think the District of Columbia does, but I think Puerto Rico does not. So it was interesting. But what are these massive tolls of death in Sacramento. Sacramento has led the nation's it's the second highest cycling fatality in 2017 when 3 bike riders died in motor vehicle crashes. 3. Last year, the number climbed to 8. That's a significant statistical increase, but from 3 to 8, not more people die otherwise. But it is interesting that there's significant bike deaths, but it doesn't really say what these are. So I tried to do a comparison of the. I want to know what's DC bike deaths compared to Sacramento when one has compulsory helmet laws and one doesn't. And it looked like to me that DC, and it was kind of hard to look through the original source info, but it looked like DC was somewhere in the middle between the 3 and 8. So interesting. Look, how do you feel about compulsory helmet laws? Look, we have a great, here in Sacramento, we have the American River Bike Trail. You can pretty much ride out there. I've always said it was interesting when I was younger and worked in a bike shop, people would come in there and then spend thousands of dollars on their bikes. I remember a family coming in, the dad's buying $1,000 bikes, mom's buying $1,000 bikes, they're buying several hundred for their children. And then I'm like, hey, what about helmets for the kids? And they're like, well, how much are they? And like, 30, 40. Whoa, I don't want to do that. It's a little spendy. I'm like, for your kids, I don't know, helmet, especially helmets nowadays. They're, we wear them going skiing. They're light. They're not the good old days of these big bulbous Spaceballs looking helmet, and that are super heavy and almost maybe more dangerous. So, a helmet's really easy to put on. It can do a lot of good for you. But, is that something that you feel like you want to be arrested for if you just happen to pick up a cruiser? I mean, because it's not you going out on the river ride. It's really what's going to be happening is it's you live in town, you and your wife, your husband, your whatever, kids, or you and your neighbor, you're just going to get on your little cruiser and you're going to go from your house a few blocks over and get coffee, and you're not going to put a helmet on. I understand a wreck can happen just as easy as that, but less likely to have a wreck on a little cruiser bike cruising on the sidewalk area. You're the one that's going to be ticketed more often probably than the recreational cyclists, because we're wearing them anyway. So, but people love to make sure that everyone else is doing something. And, if it's for the kids, it's for the kids, and then we have to do everything. How about the mailbag? I'm sure I'll get some comments about both of those last 2 ones, but my anarchy streak in me really likes to come out at times. And so if you have a problem with that, you can let me know as well. We had the last show and there were some comments about that. John Borchelt mentioned Flowers sock game on fire. I guess if you look in there, maybe the editing wasn't so good. It just showed Chris Flowers' feet. So I guess he had some good socks. I'll have to check that out. Jason Graffath commented, hopefully this edition, that was the one, the NCNCA, the podcast gets people stoked on racing in 2020. It looks like the calendar is up on the NCNCA.org page for the season. Let's get racing. Yeah, well, New Year's Day, I think we still have, I think the code is still out there. B2 Wheels is a code for pre-reg on the Bike Reg website for the San Bruno Hill Climb. You can use that discount code and you get a chance to do it. Mark Tucker commented, Clovis practice crits, fun for all categories, Bike Reg is up. That's a good note because the Clovis bike, I didn't know that they had practice crits. That's really good to know because we got a note from Larry Nolan, who runs the Early Bird crits, saying that we got to notice that they're currently not going forward due to massive road construction in that spot. They're looking for a new place to hold them. So maybe Clovis is the one that can take some overflow on that and help us with some of the slack. All right. Do I have any winners and losers? I do. This last week, it was found out that Rohan Dennis was picked up by Team Ineos. You're going to ride with them for 2020. Just a little background. Rohan Dennis, great time trialer, was with Bahrain last year. He had a little issue. Was a stage 7, 8, 9, somewhere in that range, that he was going to be the individual time trial. The stage before that, he just got off his bike. It was a big issue. He was, don't know why, but the idea is he was upset about the equipment that he was going to have to use for the individual time trial the next day. He was a big favorite to win the time trial. He's a great time trialist. And so he just gets off and quits. He said, basically, there's controversy about would he even be able to win because the tunnel tested bike is so bad, the wheels, the helmet, whatever. He made a big hissy fit about it and didn't do it. Then he goes to World Championships, not riding their bike, and he wins the Worlds. So he gets pretty much canned, I think, from Bahrain, or they didn't pick him up because he's not using their equipment. But he wins Worlds, just crushes everybody. Matter of fact, you can see Roglic sprinting for him as Rowan Dedison's catching him and passing him at the line. So he crushes everybody. And it makes you realize, you know what, if you would have done that, you had a guarantee, I think, time trial win at the Tour de France in your bag, and you decided to make a big deal about it. Anyway, so with that in mind, he was having a tough time getting a gig maybe, although Jim Akowitz for CCC team said that they were really trying to get him as well. He ends up going with Ineos, the big team there, Ineos. So winner on that is Ineos. Rohan Dennis finds a team for 2020 as he signs for Ineos. How about a loser? Team Ineos for signing Rohan Dennis for 2020. I mean, their team is stacked. Now they've got this headache, but good for them. Maybe they're the team that can handle him. It'll be interesting to see how they use him. He's been a guy that's been kind of projected of maybe he can be a Dumoulin type, but I don't think he climbs quite as well. Although he did pretty good in, was it Tour of Switzerland against Bernal last year? He did. It was back and forth. Bernal seemed to have no trouble, but he couldn't get rid of him in the last few days in the climbs. And then Rohan steps off the bike. Okay, last loser. I'm going to go with the Quick Step. Dakota Quick Step debuts their 2020 version of the Castorama team kit from 1991. It's got Castorama had like stirrups. It looked like they were wearing overalls. It was horribly done. I think it was designed by Fignon at the time. Barney Reese wore it. It was one of the uglier kits you have. Dakota Quick Step looks a lot like that. It's got like little patches coming up on the back, like maybe they've got that going too. That was my first thought on it. It's not horrible, but it's not attractive to me. And so anytime I get a chance to kind of hate on them, I will. They're going to be a formidable team, of course, this year. Evan Paul will be great to see what he can do, and some of the other guys. I think Ian Garrison is with them. That will be an amazing aspect for him. Just real last, and then we'll be out of here, is I saw a article write-up on cycling tips about Jumbo-Visma and Nilsson Palace, and it was talking about, look, some of these Jumbo's great, but it may not work for everybody. And so talked to Nilsson, presumably at the EF camp, because he's with EF Education First this year, and he was basically saying, look, my numbers started to get worse and worse than they were even before I went to the World Tour. Something was wrong, and this is why I came to EF, because maybe Jumbo just doesn't help. It's not for everybody. But what was interesting in that article, he also said he told them about the training that it wasn't working for him, and so they let him do his own, and then he started to come back up. And I'm like, well, actually, you improved greatly over the end of the year, and you came up, and that was due to them having the foresight of, maybe our training doesn't work necessarily for you, and so you need to take it on yourself or alternate it a little bit. So good for them going that way. My point is, it's going to be there's all these different aspects. I've mentioned it before. Is EF the way to go for someone like Nilsson? Maybe it is. Is it for everybody? I don't know. Jumbo's been great. It seems like for Sepp Kuss, everyone's different, and maybe that's the issue. Coaching really needs to take that into account. Now, I did mention how he learned a ton from Jumbo and their eating and their nutrition for racing, and he said that was a huge eye opener. So. I hope he takes everything, all the good that he can possibly get from Jumbo when he goes over there. My point is, there's going to be a bunch of young guys. Garrison, Evan Pohl, still Nilsson is still young. Looking forward to how these guys are going to be progressing in the next year. All right, everybody, I hope you have a good holidays. We'll still try to get another one out. Maybe do a recap of 2019 and some of the best. Maybe that's the question of the day. What is your best and worst for 2019 season? Local, crits, World Tour, cyclocross, anything you have with cycling, maybe not downhill, mountain bike. I don't know too much about that. All right, so this has been episode 154 of the Between Two Wheels podcast. As always, subscribe, share the show, share us on iTunes, Stitcher, everywhere you're out there. We are on Facebook, Between Two Wheels, also on our YouTube channel. Check us out. And until next time, enjoy the last little bits of 2019. Get super fit for the New Year's and check out San Bruno.